All right, lesson 2.2 is about point slope form. Turn to page 67 of that workbook. And on that first page, we're going to take some notes over what point slope form is. In our last section, we learned slope intercept form, which is one way to write the equation of a line. And point slope form is another way to write an equation of the line. Point slope form looks like this: y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is what we know, it is our slope, and that mysterious minus y1 and minus x1 represent the opposite x and y coordinate of a point given to you. So you're going to be given a point on the line, and opposite means opposite sign. So if the given point had an x value of positive 3, in our equation we would write negative 3 and vice versa. We would do the opposite thing. Let's get practicing some point slope form. We're going to skip all the way to example 3. And on the left side where you have that space, write your point slope form again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where x and y are opposites and m is our slope. And this example has us sketching a graph, and it gives us the equation. And then just like the last video, I've got steps out to the side that's going to teach us how to do that. And what you guys need to do first is draw your x and your y axis, because you just have a blank grid. So we need to draw that x and that y axis. And what I've done is I've written down our point slope form, and I've written down the equation we are given. What we need to do first is identify the point from that equation and then plot it on the graph, because we're going to try and graph this line. So this minus y1 means opposite y1. So our opposite y1 here is a plus 2. And y1 just represents a point on the line. So if we see a plus 2, what's the opposite of that? Minus 2. So our y coordinate is negative 2. All right, now we need to do that for our x. This minus x1 position represents the opposite x value. And we see that we have a minus 3 written in our given equation. So we want to do the opposite of that. So the opposite of minus 3 is plus 3. So that means our point on the line, remember our point is an x comma y, our point is 3, negative 2, where we bring the x and then we bring the y. So first up, we're going to plot that point. When x is positive 3 and y is negative 2, we're going to plot that point. Check. And our second task is identify the slope. And what you guys see is I didn't write the slope here. I wrote m. But our slope is actually 1/2. And I got that from the equation. So my slope is 1/2, which means go up 1, go over 2. Because we're always moving from left to right. So we've identified the slope, and now we're going to use that to find a second point. So we start at the point we had, and we're going to follow the directions of the slope. We're going to go up 1 and over 2. So we went up 1 and we go over 2. We plot a point right here. And now last but not least, we just connect those dots. But we don't just stop there, we actually draw an entire line, and we put arrows on both ends because a line goes on and on forever. And that's all we had to do for that. We had to identify the point from the given equation and then use the slope to graph it. Let's do some more problems together. We're actually going to turn the page and do that do you know how number 5 and 6, because that's the practice that we want. And this is just asking you, can we write the equation of the line given a point and given a slope. So where you have that do you understand, underneath that, write again what is our point slope format. Notice it's called point slope because we deal with a point and we deal with a slope. Notice slope intercept form, we dealt with the slope and an y-intercept. They're named after exactly what they contain. So this is just any point, and then we know the slope. All right, so in our first example, number 5, we're given the point 1, 5, where 1 is the x and 5 is the y. And if you guys can see here, I've written our point slope format, but I've just left some places blank. I've left the y1, the m, and the x1 blank because that's the pieces we need to substitute in. We need to fill in those pieces. And we know that our point is 1, 5, where x is 1 and y is 5. So let's start to fill in those pieces, knowing that when we go into the equation, we do the opposite. So the number in our equation of the line and then the number actually in the point need to be opposite. So if we need to do the opposite y, this y is positive 5, so the opposite of that's going to be negative 5. If we need to do the opposite x, this x was 1, the opposite is negative 1. And now the problem gave us our slope. Do you see where it says m equals negative 3? So that's what we put right there in that blank. So if I were to write this equation, knowing all the things that I know, filling in those dots, I would write y minus 5 equals negative 3 times x minus 1. And that would be my answer. I just filled in the blanks. So now look at number 6. You try it. I've given you the blanks. You try to fill them in. They give you your point. They give you your slope. So use that point slope form. Try to fill in those blanks. All right, let's check it. Hopefully you paused and tried to fill in those blanks. We saw that the point was negative 4, 3, where x is negative 4. So that means that x value should have been a plus 4. Awesome, that's opposite. The y value was positive 3, so the opposite is negative 3. And the slope was 2. So we have y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 4. All right, let's do one more problem together. We're going to do number 11 in the practice and problem solving because it's a great example of we were given a graph and it asked us to write a point slope form of the equation for the line. So off to the side, just to remind us, I've written what our point slope form is, and all we need to do here is we need to find the slope. Because on the graph, we're actually given 2 points to pick from, so we'll just use one of them to write the equation. So let's do step number 1. And if we're dealing with point slope form, we need to know slope. Slope is always going to be from the left to the right. So let's find the slope from this left point, knowing it's rise over run. Let's start here. Let's do the rise. Well, we got to go down. We got to go down 1, 2, 3. We have to go down 3. How many do we need to go over? We need to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, we go over 10. That's a big slope. Lots of change. So my slope, now if I'm going down, that means I'm negative. My slope is negative 3/10. And now that second step is just to write the equation using one of the points that we're given. We actually were given 2 points. Let's just use the first one, negative 5, 4, where negative 5 is that x, 4 is the y. So if I'm writing my point slope form, I want to do y, and then minus y1 means opposite y value. So the y value is 4, I'm going to do the opposite, that's negative 4, equals m, which is negative 3/10, times x, and then minus x1 means opposite x1. The x value is negative 5. I want to do the opposite, plus 5. So I have written the equation of my line. And that is point slope form, you guys, when you have the only information you have about a line is a point and you can find the slope.